Pete Hegseth was confronted with a financial assessment that raised serious questions about his readiness for senior leadership. Senator Blumenthal didn't simply challenge him. He outlined concerns that highlight why placing Hegseth in charge of the Pentagon may be a significant risk for the administration.
I want to talk about financial mismanagement at the two organizations that you headed, which are the only test of your financial management that we have before this committee, the Veterans for Freedom and Concerned Veterans for America. You took over the Veterans for Freedom in 2007. In 2008, you raised $8.7 million, but spent more than $9 million, creating a deficit. By January 2009, you told donors that the organization had less than $1,000 in the bank and debts of $434,000. By 2010, revenue at the Veterans for Freedom had dropped to about $265,000. In the next year, it had dropped further to $22,000. You don't dispute these numbers, do you?
Senator, I'm extremely proud of the work me and my fellow vets did at Vets for Freedom. A bunch of young vets with no political experience, a small group, working hard every single day. We raised donor funds. And we have letters submitted for the record from almost everyone that worked with me every single day, including our chief operating officer, who will attest that every dollar we raised was used intentionally toward the execution of our mission, which is supporting the warfighters, exactly why we're here today, the warfighters in the Iraq surge. There was a campaign in 2008, Senator.
If
Barack Obama versus John McCain. We believed John McCain would be the right person to win, and so we spent
the tax returns from that organization.
I'm glad they're in for the record.
I'm going to ask to be entered into the record, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection.
These tax returns are yours. They have your signature, and I'm going to ask that members of the committee review them because they're the only documents. I've asked for others. I've asked for the FBI report that would presumably document, it should have documented, this kind of financial mismanagement. And these are the 990s from that organization. By the year of 2011, donors had become so dissatisfied with that mismanagement, they in effect ousted you. They merged that organization with Military Families United, and thereafter you joined a second organization as executive director.
In between, Senator, I went to Harvard University for 2 years and Afghanistan.
I want to ask you questions about Concerned Veterans for America. Again, another set of tax returns, the 990s from that organization. I ask they be made part of the record, Mr. Chairman.
Without objection, both of those returns are now part of the record.
2011 to 2016. At the end of 2013, shortfall of $130,000. At the end of 2014, shortfall of $428,000. You had a surplus the following year, but then another deficit of $437,000. By the time you left, that organization had deep debts, including credit card transaction debts of about $75,000. That isn't the kind of fiscal management we want at the Department of Defense. We can't tolerate it at the Department of Defense. That's an organization with a budget of $850 billion, not 10 or 15 million, which was the case at those two organizations. And it has command responsibility for 3.4 million Americans. The highest number that you managed in those two organizations was maybe 50 people. Let me ask you, how many men and women now serve in the United States Army? What is Sen's strength?
Senator, I would like an opportunity to respond to
I've asked you a
imputing
question.
of my leadership of a veterans organization. Concerned Veterans for America, you're on the VA committee, sir, and I appreciate your service there. The VA Accountability Act and the Mission Act were all brainchilds of Concerned Veterans for America. We used our donor money very intentionally and focused to create policy that bettered the lives of veterans.
Mr. Hegseth, I'm asking you a very simple question. How many men and women currently serve in the United States Army?
Senator, the United States Army, 450,000 on active duty, sir.
And how many in the Navy?
And the Navy is 425, sir.
Well, it's 337 this year. How many in the Marine Corps?
175,000, sir.
172,300. those numbers dwarf any experience you had by many multiples. I don't believe that you can tell this committee or the people of America that you are qualified to lead them. I would support you as the spokesperson for the Pentagon. I don't dispute your communication skills, but I believe that we are entitled to the facts here. I've asked for more documents. I assume you'd be willing to submit to an expanded FBI background check that interviews your colleagues, accountants, ex-wives, former spouses, sexual assault survivors, and others, and enable them to come forward.
Senator, I'm not in charge of FBI background checks.
But you would submit to it and support it.
I'm not in charge of FBI background checks.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal.
Senator Richard Blumenthal didn't just question Pete Hegseth. He carefully addressed the central claim of Hegseth's nomination, that he is prepared to manage one of the largest and most complex institutions in the world. This exchange wasn't about political theater. It was a straightforward evaluation intended to protect the service members and veterans whose well-being depends on capable leadership. Blumenthal emphasized that the Pentagon is not a media platform or branding opportunity. It is a vast department responsible for roughly 3.4 million personnel and some of the most consequential decisions the government makes. The primary evidence of Hegseth's executive experience comes from two small veteran-focused nonprofits he previously led, and their financial records raise significant concerns. Blumenthal reviewed the data clearly: deficits, debts, declining revenue, loss of donor support, and signs of operational challenges. These findings are not partisan claims but documented IRS filings bearing Hegseth's signature. The issues appear in both organizations, showing a pattern of financial shortfalls, credit card debt, donor frustration, and eventual organizational instability or takeover. These are not minor bookkeeping errors. They point to gaps in oversight, planning, execution, and long-term management, all of which are essential to leading the Department of Defense. Blumenthal's broader message is straightforward. If managing a nonprofit with a budget of around $10 to $15 million prove difficult, it raises questions about assuming responsibility for an $850 billion department and millions of personnel. Importantly, Blumenthal underscored that his critique was not about Hegseth's service or patriotism, but about administrative readiness, which is the core requirement of the position. Veterans and service members need leadership that prioritizes personnel, equipment, support systems, health services, and operational readiness without waste or mismanagement. Taxpayers expect accountability. Hegseth's inability to provide basic figures, including the size of major military branches, added to the concern. These are foundational details for anyone seeking to direct the Pentagon. His hesitation when asked about completing a full FBI background review, including interviews with former colleagues and accountants, also stood out at a moment when transparency is especially important. Ultimately, Blumenthal's point was clear. Leadership at this level requires more than confidence or political alignment. It requires competence, credibility, and a demonstrated history of responsible management. The responsibilities are significant, and the people who serve deserve leaders who are fully prepared. If you found this explanation useful, consider subscribing for more clear, straightforward coverage. And if you value accountability and informed leadership, share this so others can stay updated.